Welcome to Asian Like Me, presented by me, Dr. Sohee Jun, the podcast for the modern Asian woman redefining what it means to thrive. I've spent years navigating the complexities of culture, family expectations, and career ambitions. Here, we have real, unfiltered conversations with incredible women who are breaking barriers, charting their own paths, and owning their power. Together, we'll dive into the wins, the lessons, and the challenges we all face. And yeah, we'll laugh. We'll share stories and drop some actionable tips to help you crush it in your own way. This is your space to feel seen, heard, and inspired. Ready to rewrite the rules? Let's drop in. I'm so excited to be in conversation with you, Clarissa. I've had the honor of knowing you for a number of years now, and we never really dove deep into your journey. So I'm excited for the listeners to hear just how awesome you are and what a unique path that you've taken as a dynamic Filipina. And so let me just start with this question of what's currently lighting you up?
I love that question. I think that in the last year, there's been a lot of disruption, not only in the industries that I work in, but also things in the political landscape about what we can and cannot control. And as I've been thinking through life about what's important for me and what I can control and not control, it's really about finding opportunity. Right? I think that's what's really lighting me up. And no matter where you are in your place of life, it can be chaotic at times. But being able to see through the chaos, ground yourself, and find opportunity in those moments, that's really what's exciting for me. Trying to just ground and look through and be able to have a clear vision and path.
I love that. And it could be one of those word of the year things. I don't know about you, but I do that at the top of the year. It absolutely is similar to what you said. It has been dynamic. I think every listener here can agree that, especially if you're in LA, literally we started the year hot, like metaphorically, realistically, and I don't mean that in any insensitive way. It's been very challenging for so many of us. And what I'm hearing you say, Clarissa, is that despite that, because isn't it true that life will always present challenges, big C, small c, and your lens on it in terms of looking at possibility is really refreshing. How do you get there? How do you do that every day?
I think everyone needs to allow themselves to feel and
Yes.
to process, and everyone takes longer to process. So I think in the past, I didn't process. I just was like, okay, this is the next thing that I need to do, and this is how we power through. And I think a lot of Asian females do that, especially if you have families. It's just process through and don't show any vulnerability.
Are you
Yes.
kidding? It's like in our DNA. Power through, just
Keep moving.
white knuckle it and go.
Yes. And you will always succeed for sure. I believe in us. But I do think it's important to be a little bit vulnerable, understand what's going on, because especially living in California during the beginning of this year, it was scary. It's still scary. And for our world and people's worlds completely changed. What safety was or what safe is now completely different. And I think everyone needs to take the time to process what's happening, but also if you can take a step back of being like, okay, what is the challenge right now? And how do I look forward and find what I need in this? For me, it is taking a little bit of a step back when there is chaos to be able to look forward.
I love that. And for our listeners, I know Clarissa both as a colleague and as a coach. And is this some of the learnings from me? Can I take some credit here?
Dr. Sohee is fantastic and has guided in several different landscapes of my career path. So yes, she has seen a little bit more frantic energy at the same time, but I do think it is extremely important to take a little bit of a step back and to look up.
Oh, absolutely. And I love what you said. I'm going to double click into what you said is so important about processing the feelings because it's literally my mantra that if you don't process through by feeling it, acknowledging it, and then to what you said, identifying how you move forward, it really, I believe, will come back to bite you in different ways. It's going to be still in the system, still like something that you are triggered by, whatever that looks like. I think that processing and acknowledging that feeling piece is key. And so today, how are you today?
I'm great. We are recording this on a Friday, and it is a wonderful day. And
And
I'm
your
very
nails
excited
are
about the
cute.
weekend. My nails are very cute right now. They're a calming green, is what we discussed right beforehand.
Exactly. I want our listeners to know what a phenomenal badass you are in the sense of just carving a different niche for yourself. So first, let me just start by saying congratulations on being newly married, which is a
Thank
big
you.
thing. And
Yes.
also, you're one of five, the youngest of five, right?
Yes. I am the youngest of five children.
Of a Filipina culture and heritage. So take us back there and remind me and our listeners, were you born in the States or not? And let's take that path.
Yeah, I am an immigrant. I was born in Manila, Philippines, and I was the youngest of five. I was around 2.5, 3 years old, so really early. However, my oldest sister, she was in sixth grade, and that really impacted my upbringing. We were a family of five moving to a suburb of New York with not that many connections. And for us, it was instilled in us of we are coming here for opportunity. We moved in 1988 during the time where Ferdinand Marcos was the leader in the Philippines, and it was a very scary time. My parents ended up making the decision to leave to try to find better opportunity for their children because they didn't know what the future was going to be in the Philippines. And that storyline, even though I was extremely young, was instilled in all of us very
Mm.
early because all of us did have to go through processes of assimilating to America and assimilating to American culture.
Boy, do I know that.
Yes.
Yeah. And what did that look like for you? Was it stated or implicit that you had to assimilate? And what did assimilating look like for you and your family?
I don't know if it was stated, but it was really important for my parents to surround ourselves with people they trusted and a lot of Filipinos. I only learned this when I moved to California. There's not as many Filipinos in the tri-state area as there is in California. No one really knew what my nationality was growing up, which is interesting because I'm here and everyone knows I'm Filipina. But that alone was you're not Chinese or Japanese or Korean. What is your nationality? I think just hearing that and knowing that as you're young, you feel a bit, oh, I didn't know that was different. Within that, you have the impression of, oh, you are a minority and it is a little bit different, but that's okay. And for my family, every Sunday, my parents tried to only speak Tagalog so
Oh,
that we could try to understand it and speak it and be fluent in it. My siblings are, however, my sister right above me,
uh-huh.
and I understand it fluently, but we cannot speak it that well. But I am fluent in understanding.
Oh,
Um,
wow. I love
yeah.
that. So I think I want to click into the part where you said the difference was amplified because people were just, we haven't seen someone that looks like you. And what you said after that is, and that's okay. For me, it took a long time to get to the, and that's okay. And in my household, my parents didn't speak, they spoke Korean to us, and it was totally okay that we spoke English back. Clarissa, you're like doing so much better than me. I am really good at Korean restaurants, and that's about it. I wish I learned and retained more. And I think that's great that you can understand it. What's your level of speaking?
Oh, it's terrible. I don't even want to, for the listeners out there, I don't want to even try. But yeah, I can understand it fluently. And it came naturally because my parents were trying every Sunday for us to actually speak it. And then I'm a very outgoing, talkative person, and I just didn't speak. And my sisters were like, great, please just be quiet.
Yeah.
Um, but they were trying for us because at that age of being so young, it's so much easier with languages.
Hmm.
So when they spoke Tagalog at home, I just spoke back in English. And that's how I really retained it and kept it. But I couldn't do the backwards because I was speaking English and that's what we were taught and that's what a majority of the day looked like. I just never was able to retain being able to speak it. And I was also 2.5. So I was
Yeah.
learning how to speak English here, whereas my siblings, they can speak more because they came from the Philippines when they already were speaking.
Yeah, I have an older sister. She's 3.5 years older, and she can read Korean and definitely speak well better than I can. She was almost 10. So I'm a little jelly that she knows, and it's on my list, Clarissa, to still go back and learn. Like, hello, how many tools are out there to learn? Oddly enough, I don't know if you've ever been back to the Philippines, but when I go back to Korea, there's so much more that just comes out, which I think is really fascinating in terms of language acquisition. Okay, I want to talk more about when did you're creative in your work and how did that happen? It's such a unique path.
I was obsessed with music for my whole entire life, and I had such a big passion for music. My mom brought us to Broadway shows. She loved music. I think in the Filipino culture, music is just such a huge part of it.
Isn't Bruno Mars Filipino?
Yes, yes.
Yes, he's
And
so talented.
there's so many talented Filipinos. You can literally go to the Philippines and they have karaoke where there is a band and someone will be literally singing without the lyrics on the screen on any night of the week.
I love
Um,
this. I just learned something that blew my mind. It's called Key.
karaoke. Because there's a rock band behind you. There is a live band behind you, and you are singing as though you are the lead singer of your own band.
I love
Yeah.
everything about that.
It's absolutely amazing. But yeah, instilled in me, there was always a karaoke machine, and I went to Broadway, and music was such an important part of my life. I loved the radio. I was part of those CD collections that you got 10 CDs, dating my age. But I was always a music fan, and I was so hungry and passionate about how do I get into this business? What does that mean? And in my younger years, I was like, I'm going to be famous, but
Mhm.
I didn't know what that meant. I played the piano. And in high school, I realized, okay, I am not that talented in this area. However, my theory teacher, I actually studied music theory, which is rare for executives in the
Yeah.
music industry. But my theory teacher actually told me that there was a music industry.
Oh.
And that was in high school. I explored everything about getting into the music industry.
Mm.
And I feel really blessed to have had such a calling or passion because sometimes it's crazy that you, at 18 years old, you have to pick a career,
I
you
know.
know?
Yeah, we talked about this. There's so much pressure to know early on. And you did. You happened to be one of those people that had that calling and actually followed it, sounds like.
Yeah, and I do look back and I'm so grateful that I was able to succeed in it. But I do think in this creative world, if you are super passionate and you work hard and you get the right shots, you don't take that for granted. The path will lead you to where you're supposed to be. I know that sounds super cliche, but that's how I've directed my career.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just love music. And that's really, I didn't know anything about it and I didn't know the positions or anything there.
I
It was
imagine
just from
that.
a passion.
Yeah, and I imagine that you said early on that there were no contacts. So it was literally you following what I call like breadcrumbs to get to be the creative executive that you are today. And I'm wondering, let's talk about was there any pressure? Because I know my family growing up, it wasn't really stated, but as an immigrant, there's always this pressure to be like, you will be something traditional that is quote unquote successful. And you being one of five, did that lessen the pressure and or talk about that in terms of family expectations?
No, that didn't lessen the pressure. I think I was, because of my sister, she's 9 years older than me, my oldest. I think I was starting to go to colleges and drop off my siblings since I was in sixth grade.
Mm,
So the conversation of college and where you were going started for me in elementary
early.
school. Once I found out that there was a music industry and I was like, oh, I just need to get an internship. I did ask my parents if I could take a gap year in between high school and college to pursue. But they said, hey, if you go to school for the very Asian directive here, something tangible where you can have a career like business, you can do whatever you want after. you can pursue whatever you want if you're passionate about something. We won't stop you, but it is very important for us to have a 4-year education.
Hmm.
And I am grateful for that because it really helped in my career trajectory. I went to Boston University and went to school for business, but they had a business and entertainment program. And I
Ooh,
just did all of the things. I was in LA doing internships throughout school. I just found ways to do it. And my first internship was my freshman summer. I somehow landed a internship at Z100, which is top radio station in New York. And I was
okay.
18 years old.
Clarissa, there's no somehow. We need to tell the listeners how that happened because that's getting under the hood of what is actually resilience and courage. And your parents are like, you will get a 4-year traditional degree. And you're like, yes, and I can do this thing that I'm really, truly passionate about. So, like, how did you land the internship?
You know, I was one of the kids that emailed every single place, and I sent my resume to every single place, which has like a coffee shop on it at the time.
Love it.
But I wrote letters and I was like, I really want this and I need this and all of these things. And I think at the time I was the youngest intern because I was a freshman. And it was for the morning shows for Elvis Duran, who still is number one.
Wow, this is such a call out because you were not only brave and courageous to be like, I'm just gonna go wide and take the risk and hope that I land something. That takes a lot of courage and chutzpah. Not only that, but you landed in one of the top radio stations. Hello.
Yeah, I was very excited because I was able to go to the concert. It was like right before the internship started, but it was the morning show. The morning show starts at 6 a.m. I had to get to their offices by 5 a.m. and I couldn't afford the parking
Oh,
because
wow.
you don't get paid. So I had to wake up at 3 a.m. to drive to take a train to get to the station. And I look back and I'm like, wow, that's great. That's great that I did that. But to me, it was so exciting. And I think if you find something you're passionate about and you work really hard, I'm not saying it's easy, it's never going to be easy. But if you're willing to figure it out, the opportunities do come to you. You just need to be resilient.
Yes, that's the call out, which is the under theme of what I'm hearing you say about the chances that you were given. It's a combination of taking the risk, putting it out there that you want these internships, and then you were resilient enough to get up at 3 a.m. and find a way to pay for parking and do what you needed to do in service of the experience. And I think that's really important because nowhere in this is it handed to you or me in any of the opportunities. It might have been an open door, and then you have to actively do it, pursue it, take the actions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for the entertainment industry, for the creative industry, it's just, trying to get in the door in some way and showing and proving. And that's how I ended up the very start of my career was freshman year of college
Where did
doing
that
that.
lead you?
I'm going to date myself because during the time, throughout my whole career, there's been disruption. And I think in many industries, disruption, but entertainment specifically, there's always disruption. And when the internship after I was at Z100, I ended up going to a label. And it was the time when Napster completely shattered
I
the
remember.
industry.
Yeah, I
And there was one summer where all of my bosses got laid off, like my third or fourth week. And then they just shifted me somewhere else. But it planted a really important seed where I realized that no matter what you end up doing, you have to know what the outside industries or technologies are doing to affect your business.
ooh,
Not
that's
just,
important.
yeah, not just, am I doing a good job? Going to be resilient through change.
Yes.
Um,
That's so key because it's so layered in that, yes, you personally as an individual have to do a good job to keep going and growing. And then you do have to pay attention, absolutely, to the macro where what's the trend? Right now, it's all about AI. And so, how do you use all of that information that's going on around you in service of the growth?
Absolutely. I remember at the time I was an intern and I ended up working in the first digital department of a major label.
Mhm.
And it was when ringtones were really cool.
Yeah.
And I was sending cease and desists to the people that had websites with ringtones on that were part of the artist. And I remember being like, this is an interesting task slash interesting objective of their look at the time of disruption, right?
Mhm.
And with that, I always thought through, okay, I need to be aware. I need to be aware of how business makes money, and I need to be aware of the other factors that can impact.
Yeah, you have been at many places since. When you look back, what are the traits? What are the things that you think listeners need to know about? Like, how do you make moves or even navigate all of the different changes and disruptions? Let's talk about that because you've gone through all of them. What do you recall in the look back?
There's always a moment of
Yes.
fear and not security, right? And I think that's natural in it. And you still need to do your job well. You need to do what's being asked. And I think it's really continuing to have an open mind and always be curious and always learn. Because once you feel like, hey, I'm at this position, I deserve this, and you're not looking and learning and being open, I think that's when you lose opportunity. You lose the ability to have more opportunity because if you stop learning and growing in any industry, there's always an opportunity of what's next if you have the right conversation and learn something new.
Mhm,
Especially like right now, from the entertainment space, there was streaming.
mhm,
And now, after that, there was the creator economy. I was an agent for a long time. I ended up starting to book creators for their first live tours because I thought there was an opportunity there.
mm.
And even now, the AI and what it's going to do, people are scared, but at the same time, there's going to be a lot of legalities that stop it or are able to shift through. And there is still an unknown of how this is going to affect not only the creative side of the business, but just general industries across America. And I think it's really important right now to stay curious.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I love that curiosity mindset. I'm all about that. I want to go back to the fear part. How did you not let fear stop you?
I think for the first 15 years of my career, it definitely was the focal point of my career, and stress and anxiety were what pretty much kept me up at night, woke me up, and the anxiety of it all just made me work doubly as hard, which isn't healthy.
About that. Yeah, right. I mean, fear is going to be there. And I love that you acknowledged, listen, I was driven by fear because a lot of us are. And that's the reality of some phases of our lives. So now do you feel that when fear comes up, it's easily, I don't know what the word is, more manageable, or what does that look like?
No, I don't think fear is more manageable in any sense because it comes in different waves, right? There's something that has never happened before, and you're like, oh, goodness, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
I ended up going through therapy and I started meditating. And I love everyone that knows me knows I love being active and running. So for me, it was more so tapping into what does self-care mean for me? And I didn't really put self-care first for a good 10 years of my career for sure. And until you do that, I don't think you can see your fullest potential, to be honest with you. Because I think when you're just working and grinding and just putting your head down all the time, you're not looking up to be like, is this what's fulfilling me? Is this what's bringing me joy?
Yeah, and it also gives you the points to look back at how have I let fear rule my decisions and made choices based on fear or based on possibility or something in between. And I love that you shared that you have these practices that keep you a little bit more grounded, although there might still be fear on the side. For me, it really happened during the pandemic when I felt like, ooh, I need to double down on this meditation thing because I find it to be very grounding and also just, I don't know if I shared this with you, Clarissa, and perhaps you already know, like spirituality is very embedded into my heritage and my culture. My dad was a Buddhist monk. That part of me really came to life. And wow, I find myself being much more grounded and less anxious when I'm meditating. And especially like doubling the time when it's chaotic and dynamic. And I think the past 5 years, it's fair to say, pandemic, fires, everything in between, the hate Asian stuff that was happening in between. There's been so much that I think we all need to find what is that thing that helps us feel grounded.
Absolutely. Pandemic was the first time I was let go and I didn't have a job for the first time since I was
Mm,
12 years old. There was a lot of fear, self-work during that time, but I needed it. I needed to know that work wasn't everything.
mm,
And I also made it where I was my job and what I felt, or the success, or all of these things, my whole personality was I'm this person at this job. And when that's all stripped away, and also when you're isolated, a lot of things happen and go through your head that can be very negative. And for me, it was trying to find ways to not get into that negative cycle.
yeah.
I walked a lot. I also found meditation, and I was doing that before, but I was doubling down on it. But I also had mantras. If you talk to any of my friends, they could tell you that I would say this every single day because during the time for COVID, there were so many people that were let go and so many people that had to figure out their paths. But there were also other people that didn't change at all. And for me, I was like, comparison is the thief of joy.
Ooh, I'm writing that one down. I just got chills hearing
Yeah.
that. Tell me why that
Comparison
became.
is the thief of joy. Because if I reflect back and I'm like, okay, the fear of all of the first 10 years and all of these things, like you're doing some of the work or your work because you're scared of somebody else or you're scared that's not the right thing to do. And for me, you have to go with your gut. And when you compare yourself to another person, you're questioning yourself, really, at the end of the day. When I was on my job path and looking for things, I'm like, okay, do not compare yourself to this person because they have these qualifications or your other friend or all of these people. If you find yourself comparing yourself, you're going to go into this negative cycle. So I did find this quote and I forgot who said this, but yeah, it was my full 3 year COVID in and out of pandemic mantra of comparison is a thief of joy.
Oh, I love that one. And I love the framing that you gave on it. Comparison is the thief of joy. And that hits me differently today than it did like years ago. And I appreciate so much that you shared about the layoff experience. Being laid off, I certainly was too. And it's interesting because I was laid off so early in my career that my inner critic would say things like, "You're never going to get another job. Who's going to hire you? You've been laid off." And I had this huge shame of feeling like I disappointed my husband, my sister, people that were just really near and dear to me that loved me probably no matter what. I assumed that I was disappointing them because I was laid off. And it was such a spiral of shame. And literally, then I would slap myself with, "You're never going to get another job." So it was like months of that. And I think that whether you're mid-career or early or seasoned, the being laid off experience is very formative. And I love that you were like, you know what? I have this mantra and I'm going to take a step forward. And by the way, Clarissa, I love that the main theme now of this pod episode is really about resilience and courage and self-care. It's so important now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And now that you say it, the theme is resilience and keeping to get yourself forward. And there's just so many parts of life, right? Like on a day-to-day basis, you're working, you have your family, you have your partner if you have one, or you're looking for a partner, you have a dog. Like there's just so much going on. And I think people, I truly do, get caught up and don't realize how much you do in a day. In a day.
Yes, absolutely. I'm like, I have three kids, a dog, I run my own business, I'm single, all the things. And it does take a moment to be like, whoa, each of us. And I think there's some grace in that. It's like when we look up, open up the aperture and realize not only do we have so much going on, but then you can think about all the stuff that's going on for other people. Okay, so now I want to ask you more like specifically around your culture. And what do you think are strengths of your cultural heritage that's helped you in your career? And then what have been some hindrances?
Yeah, I know you brought up spirituality. Filipino culture is super Catholic. I'm still very religious, not in the sense of Catholicism per se, but Christianity. I believe in God, I believe in Jesus. There's a lot of things, as I said before, that you can't control. And I do believe in the higher power. And sometimes the path that's coming for me is planned, and there's going to be ups and downs, and it will eventually be in the path that I think God wants me to have. But also at the same time, that doesn't mean it's just going to be handed. I think that was always been my mentality of you still have to work hard and you still have to figure it out. But when you are not necessarily understanding of what the next step is, putting faith in God and making sure that I let go a little bit of the control of I don't know what's next and what's going to happen. And that's where that fear piece always pops up.
Yeah, I feel like, thank you for sharing that. I feel like there's a direct correlation. The more fear you have, the more tightly you grip on and try to control things. I'm just curious, do you go to church?
Not every Sunday, but I try. But I do pray every day. And I think more recently, it's like trying to find the serenity and peace, right? Trying to find the serenity and peace when there's so much that isn't peaceful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think have been some hindrances from a cultural perspective?
I think from a cultural perspective, just so strict, right? I think that Asian strictness is positive in a way, but also negative now that I look back at some of it of being so hard.
Mm.
And I think I had to unlearn a lot of things. And I worked really hard to unlearn a lot of things of being so hard on yourself when you don't succeed,
Mhm.
when you don't get that A. For me, it's okay, you weren't the best in class today. So why does this affect me so much?
Yeah.
To not be the best or to not be one of the most to win type
Yeah.
scenario.
This is very anecdotal. However, I do think that there's some ties to perfectionism in just the Asian culture of driving for being the best. And it's all well intentioned and that's known and understood. And then it does drive a little bit of that like perfectionism. I know it did for me. So I'm hearing that from you too.
100%. You strive for perfection. You strive to be the best because if not, who are you?
I know. Who are
It's
you even?
what like you're not deserving is I think what it really stems down to. If you're not the best, if you're not perfect, you're not deserving, and that's not true as long as you tried your hardest, right? But that wasn't what I was taught. You got a B minus. What is this?
Yeah. Don't even show me.
I think I probably signed my own report card if I got anything below an A.
Parents, you may not know this, but I
Yeah, because it was the fear of I might not be good enough.
no, I love that you had that little mischievous side to you. You're like,
This is not worth the blowout on this one.
I'm telling you, so afraid of my mom growing up. My dad was a little bit, he wouldn't admit it, and maybe my sister knew this too, but I was his favorite child, and so not so scared of him. But, ooh, my mom. And I wouldn't even say that she was a tiger mom. She was just scary.
Yeah, when my dad yelled, it was like real serious because he would never yell, but my mom was very strict. And in the positive of it, from a culture standpoint, she raised four really strong women, and I have a brother who is also very strong. But also at the same time, I think that emotional vulnerability through line, I don't necessarily know I learned from my culture.
Mm, yeah, that's real. Thank you for sharing that. You certainly are very real and vulnerable, so you've managed to break down those walls. So I think that's a really good evolution. When I think about others that want to make it in the creative field, what do you think they need to embody? We talked a lot about resilience, being able to work through the dynamic changes, and I think it's only going to get bigger and faster in the work world. What do you think they need to embody?
For the creative space, everyone's passionate. And I think if you are passionate about your craft, that's first and foremost about wanting to step into the creative field, being already in it, right? If it's not feeding your passion, it might be time for a shift because that's really, I think, what makes. I also think it's understanding the dynamic of whatever industry it is, whether it's music or TV or film or podcast. There's always different stakeholders in each of those. So
Mhm.
having a macro level of understanding, not necessarily needing to know everything and all the little details, but how does it affect your business and what are the intersections for it? I think that's really important because even if you are an artist, but you don't understand how much your attorney makes or what your manager percentage is, I think it's really important to be still good businessmen, women, because the creative world is somewhat entrepreneurial and no matter even if you're in a corporate company.
Yeah. Oh gosh, Clarissa, that really jumped for me. Even if you are in a creative field, know how the business makes money. Be savvy about, these are my words, be savvy about what's going on outside of the company, in the industry. And I love how you put it, like the intersection of all of that. Really critical that people know it is a business after all. So, one of the, you shared your mantra back then. Is there a mantra that you have now that's different?
I don't know if I have a mantra now that's different.
Do you still say the same one?
Sometimes when I get a little bit off track,
Yeah.
I think I still will probably continue that one.
It's such a good one. I want to
Um,
share the one that I have right now.
yes, please. Maybe it will be mine.
So I change mine just depending on where I'm at in my life. And this one is really resonant on so many levels, which is I love the process. And for me, it's tied to what we talked about around outcomes, expectations, and driving to something and perfectionism and all of that wrapped up. It's let me just loosen my grip on those things a little bit and be in the now and enjoy what is happening in the process, less focus on the outcome.
I
That's
love that.
such an important thing for me right now because it's like there's so much, yes, outside going on that is hard, fearful, all of that. And there's also, if we look at it, possibilities and things to enjoy.
I absolutely love that. That truly resonates. I think maybe mine is enjoy the journey, right? It's very similar to that. I would say, especially this year, enjoy the journey because it's been a wild one.
Yes, it has. Oh my gosh. My question that I ask every guest is how do you define what it means to be a modern Asian female?
We are everything, but I think driven, caring, resilient,
Mm.
and powerful, I think,
Ooh.
because it's amazing to see Asian female leaders. One of my mentors coming up was an Asian female, and I didn't realize until later how important it was to have her as a mentor and to just understand some idiosyncrasies that others didn't. And I didn't really realize that until I left those companies and went to others, how much impact she made in my life. Her
Mhm.
name's Marlene Suchi. She's an agent at CAA, but
Hi, Marlene. Let's shout out to Marlene.
I'll shout her out.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I agree with you. Powerful. That one stood out. Powerful. We're resilient. We're definitely caring and certainly driven. I feel like that cannot be unlearned in
Yes,
some ways.
yes.
And with that, maybe Marlene's the next one. Who do you think we should have on this podcast?
Oh, Marlene's a good one. But I also think there's a few women that run the Asian American Collective who are amazing. They are all powerhouses in their own right in their professional field, but they are giving back and trying to create community to drive together in the music and entertainment space. So I would say Zena Koda, Caroline Yim, for sure. I'm going to shout them out. But to be on the pod.
Yes, you know that I'm trying to get them on as well. Let's add a little
I,
pressure.
yes, no, they're both fantastic and they're such beasts in what they do on a day to day.
Yeah, thank you for that. Clarissa, it has been such a revelation and such a dynamic conversation to be in with you. So thank you for your time and just sharing your journey. And I cannot wait to continue the conversation with other badass Asian females. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the space, and this was so fun.
Good. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Wow, I don't know about you, but that was such a important, relevant, and just powerful conversation with Clarissa. As you know, she is a creative executive, powerhouse in the music industry, and it was such a pleasure to be in conversation with her, where we not only explored her career path and the unique path that she took into music and that led her to be a creative exec, We also unpacked her cultural heritage and the strengths from being a Filipina, as well as some of the hindrances that she had to unlearn. And I think the important call out in our conversation is really about how do we navigate this really dynamic landscape that we're in, whether it's at work or outside of work. It's just ever changing. And I don't know about you, but the changes are coming faster and faster. So I loved that in our conversation, we talked about fear because even if you are seasoned in your workplace or you are experienced, there is still fear. And she really talked to that. The self-care practices that she doubles down on is really what helps her get through it, from her spirituality and the way that she connects to God and to meditating. And I really love this one, which is her mantra that got her through a really challenging time in COVID and being laid off. And that mantra being comparison is the thief of joy. Ask you of the reflection question of what are your practices, self-care practices that help you navigate changes and experiences that bring up fear because we all have them. No matter where we are in our life, there will be situations that elicit fear and change is ever present. What are those practices that help you feel more grounded? I'd love for you to reflect on that. And if you don't have one currently, what's a practice that you're more curious about incorporating? Whether it's going for a 30-minute walk every other day to, hmm, I want to come up with a mantra that helps me reset. Get curious for yourself because I do know that whatever it is, whether it's a mantra or a practice or moving your body or connecting with friends or a therapist, whatever that looks like, I know that we need to broaden our toolkit with the ways that we care for ourselves through this really ever-changing time. All right, so I really do hope that you enjoyed this conversation, and I'm going to ask you to please leave a review, follow, because there's going to be so many more dynamic and rich conversations to come. And don't keep this podcast a secret. My mission is to amplify all of the ways in which the modern Asian female is showing up, is showing courage, is powerful. And I need your help to do that. Let's get this podcast out to as many listeners as possible so that we can continue to inspire and create a community because I know that we need it. And I know we need this space to feel seen, heard, and really to connect. So do me that favor, will ya? Rate it, follow, and share it out with your tribe. And last but not least, if you haven't checked out my book that launched last year, it is all around mindset, and it's called The Aligned Mindset: Secrets of High Achieving Women for Navigating Work and Life. And it's available exclusively on Amazon as well as on Audible. So if you like to take walks, you can listen to me. It's narrated by yours truly, and it gets to all the ways that mindset can help us navigate challenges in our life, which is, hello, very apropos to this conversation I had with Clarissa. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I cannot wait to bring more really powerful episodes. So keep tuning in. Thank you.